Wait, 3, 2, 1, action.
Welcome to Security in Flight 2 and the Lake District, England, my home. It's a stunning place to be and it's a fantastic place to fly over. Flying cross-country, getting high and doing big distances, for me it's what it's all about. But quite often you can fly in thermic conditions and it can be turbulence. And understanding that turbulence and being confident in your wing and controlling your wing is vital for you to enjoy the day and make the most out of the flight. So this film is designed to open a few windows and show you all about glider control. What I'd like to show you is what a glider can and can't do, how far you can push it, and what a pilot should and shouldn't do. Security in Flight 2 has been designed to appeal to pilots of all levels. It has been created as a reference DVD, as opposed to a single-view paragliding film. We hope to show you every aspect, taking you through deflations, spins and stalls and recovery techniques. It's more than just about increasing your performance. It's about relaxing and enjoying the sport. I too get nervous in rough thermals and sometimes when it's perfectly alright. All pilots have peaks and troughs in their confidence, but one of the things that helps to reduce the fear factor is knowing your wing and your ability to control the wing. So with the aid of 3 high-definition cameras showing the real time and slow motion, this time you'll be with me throughout the manoeuvres, enabling you to really absorb everything that's going on. In Disk 2, we go to Villeneuve and meet Alan Zoller and his team to talk about testing, spiral dive recovery and reserve deployments. But do remember, this is not a do-it-yourself SIV film. This is just to give you an idea and an understanding and a healthy respect for the glider. Don't go out and just do it yourself over the ground because you can get into a real pickle. I've been flying for over 25 years and I still get a giddy zing of excitement that shoots through me whenever I'm in the air mucking about, because I just can't believe how lucky I am. Paragliding is classed as a risk sport, and quite rightly so. But making it safe and enjoyable to everyone is our goal. And I hope that this film will help you also get the most out of this great sport and have as much fun watching it as we did making it. In order to make this film, we've come to one of the best places in the world for SIV flying, which is Ulu Deniz in Turkey. As you can see, after 13 years, I'm a little bit chubbier, a little bit wrinklier, but still I hope this film is going to help you get your confidence in understanding and controlling the wing, which is the important thing. what you've got to do first of all is get used to where everything is. So I can see, here's my big ear lines here. 1, 2, nice. I can reach them, they're easy to get to, nice, I know where they are. The other one is a stabilizer line. In this case it's on a C and it goes just to the stabilizer line on the edge. Okay, just in case you have a cravat and you need to just tug it out, little stabilizer line will get that out. You know your brakes, you know where they go to. It's always important, don't ever let go of brakes like that because they twist around. So always make sure, if ever you're releasing the brakes, they go up smoothly to your keepers, okay, which is where you pop them in. And whenever you're doing anything, it's always good to put your hands through the loops so that you're flying like that, okay? Don't fly like that if you're doing anything, because suddenly if it snaps, woohoo, you lose a brake toggle and then it spins around and gets all problematic. So we've got our brakes in the hands, we're comfortable, we know where all the lines are and we know where our reserve is, all is good, we're familiar with it. Then it's your body position. Am I in a harness that's suited for me? Am I sitting comfortably, not too supine? Because if you're too supine and you have problems, you yaw around the place all the time and that causing twists in your risers. So you want to be sitting up nice. You want to have a sort of 42 to 46 centimeters between the melons, which is my elbow to my fingers. So you're comfortable with the distance, not too close, you twist, not too far apart, you fall into roll and can twist again and amplify collapse problems. So nice and comfortable, nice and balanced, all right? And keep your body and your legs crossed and under you. So you're in a nice, neutral, comfortable flying position. So now I've got that, I'm happy with all that. I've got my speed system, I know where that is, and I know how to use it. So first of all, you put your foot in the stirrup and you push the first stirrup, and then you come up for the main stirrup, which is the hard bar, and then you squeeze on that nice and progressively. And you can see obviously the picking up of speed very fast. All the loading is on the front, very little loading on the back, look. If you do want to feel the tension or you want to get a clue of what's happening in your wing, just hold the back riser and that'll give you the clue in the wing. Just a little bit of tension. See my hands there? Just a bit of tension. Not much, but you don't pull on the brakes, okay? And then when you want to release them, you ease off. The more efficient the wing, the better it is on speed. And speed bars aren't bad now. The way gliders are made, the way the speed systems work, they're much better than they used to be. So you should sort of get used to using it. But if ever it's in lumpy air and you think, oh, should I use my speed system? You know, I'd rather have a little bit of brake on, then you've answered your question. Don't use a speed system. But you'll be amazed at how stable and strong a glider at speed is. So get used to it. Practice it at sites that are comfortable with you in conditions that are comfortable, so that when you use them in a cross-country environment, you're comfortable with it. But another thing to remember is use the pitch. Okay, so if your glider, if it's pendulum upwards, your pitch is upwards, then you want to squeeze the bar on to get it down. And then if you're diving, you ease it off a bit to flatten it. The whole goal is to keep it flat, keep the glider flat, because the minute it starts doing that, you destroy your glide. A lot of pilots I teach, they have GPSs and things, and you ask them what's the speed, and they don't know because they haven't looked at the average. So you have to learn the speed. You can see that in the test reports, but you can also do it for yourself. Look at the GPS, do some turns 90 degrees, and you always work on an average. So the average is, let's say, 38 k's an hour. So that's my trim speed. So then I can slow it down and gently in smooth air, and you notice it's going quieter and quieter, and that's a sign. Okay, and you can just gently keep it coming and find your minimum speed, okay, just before it stalls. You don't want it to stall, so you just keep it coming down nice and quiet. That's your minimum speed. And then you just gently ease off. And note that these little things give you a better understanding and sensitivity of the wing. Harness settings and race harnesses are discussed in more detail in Disk 2. It's great in smooth air. It's really nice to practice getting in close with cliffs because it gives you a bit of confidence. The more you do it, it goes into a different part of your brain, you're more experienced, and the more natural it feels, the more comfortable you are with it. But do be careful, you know, when you're flying on slopes at home, imagine a slope, your body can be close to it, but when you're flying next to a cliff, it's not your body's not the first thing that is close to it, it's your wingtip. So always keep an eye on your wingtip. It was funny, earlier I flew out and we have no vario when we're doing these manoeuvres because obviously we're going to do manoeuvres over water and I don't want to disturb the sound. But when you fly over the mountains in sort of lumpy lift, you have no sound, and sound is a great gauge to see when turbulence is coming, or lift when the vario beeps. So you don't feel so nervous, and it's a positive thing. Beep, 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 beep. But when you have no sound, it's just lumpy, and it gets you very nervous and on edge. There's nothing wrong with being nervous. It keeps you alive, it keeps your senses heightened, and you know, in the long run, it increases your performance. It's the secret of knowing how to control it, turn it to a positive, and don't dwell on the negative. That's the secret. So now we're going to do some rapid descent techniques, starting with the big ears, the most common and the most used, because it gives you a nice descent rate but a forward speed. So to do it, you keep your hands through your brakes. It's good because you've always got control that way. You go for the manufacturer's ear lines, okay? So you make sure you know where they are, and then you pull them down. You can pull them down at the same time, or preferably one then the other. So bop, bop, it's in, okay? You can then slide your hands down to pull them in a little bit more, a little bit firmer. The more you pull like that, the better, and the less brake you've got on, the better, okay? So now we're descending, it's nice and smooth. I can weight shift right to steer right, and I can weight shift left to steer left. Then, when I'm coming out, I just let go and pump and let it dive. You must make sure you do a smooth pump. You can do one and then the other, or just one, and then let it dive and recover. In normal flight conditions, big ears generally come out themselves, but it doesn't hurt to give them just a little pump to help them on their way. The next one we're going to do is a big ear. This is if you really want to get down. You need a little bit of forward speed, but you want to keep your heading, but you want to just get down. You go for the big ear line plus the next A line in. So you have a look at them, you can see the big ear line's going to the outer leading edge, and the next one in is next to it. So you get them ready and you hold on to them, you put your hands far up, and this time it's best to do one and then the other because the deflation's big. So one side, pull it in, and then the other side, pull it in. See, these are big ears now. The descent rate's huge, almost deep stalling really, but it's got a bit of forward speed, but I'm dropping a lot, and you can see I'm pulling a lot of the A center in as well. You don't use your brakes. My brakes are right up, you can see that. In fact, some manufacturers' manuals will suggest using the speed bar once you're established in good, stable big ears, as it decreases the angle of attack and increases the speed and safety. But you never put the speed system on before you do the deflations because that makes it too big. Okay, so you let go of them, and if it's slow to come out, I pump one side, then the other, and it comes straight out. But you've got to remember that with big ears, you're dropping quite a lot. so your angle of attack is increasing. So be careful of sort of deep stalling. If you do feel that the glider is rocking back or in a deep stall, then put your hands up and make sure it flies. But if it is deep stalling, then a tiny jab on the brakes, just to feel the pressure, will get it to rock forwards and fly out. Don't pull a big brake, because that could drop you into a violent stall.
Manufacturers will also suggest that you use the speed bar or push on the risers, but as long as you're sensitive, you can just jab on the brakes. After all, they're in your hands anyway.
Come down! Come down! I've got to come down. So I'm just, to get down, if you're sort of just approaching cloud base, it's always best to sort of pull big ears, because it gives you forward speed still.
When done correctly, most big ears with high aspect ratio wings are in fact cleaner and more efficient than normal, safer wings.
We'll do the big ear again. So it's going to be bigger deflation. So one, then the other, okay, and just stabilize it. The higher the aspect ratio wing, the more radical it'll be. But you can see it's dropping quite a lot. Okay, now I'll get it out, so I just let go of it. And it pops out on the left, pops out on the right. All is wonderful.
So now let's compare the most used descent techniques. You can see here that the spiral dive gets you down faster, but you may be in a position where you need forward speed and a high descent rate, like getting away from a sucking cloud. So you need to do a big ears and stabilize it, then use speed bar. So it's important to practice all the descent techniques and get proficient at all of them so that you can choose the right one for the right situation.
Okay, so we've done the big ears and the big ears. What about another rapid descent technique, which is a beeline? So to do the beeline, you just reach up, make sure you grab the bee risers, both of them, hold the mailons, okay, because that gives you your purchase, and pull. Make sure it doesn't horseshoe. If it does start to horseshoe, then ease off the beelines. I could pull more on now that it's stable. You can see how much is on now, it's flicking. And then when I want to let go, all I do is let go of them, let it dive, and recover. Releasing from a stable beeline, it should never really go more than 45 degrees to the horizon, so there. But by letting go smoothly and firmly, it makes the dive quicker and gets you into a nice smooth dive and recovery. If you let go too slowly, especially a wind gradient, it can stay in deep stall, and then it's it's problematic, in which case you then have to just do a gentle jab on the brakes to rock it and then let it dive, and it recovers. Or manufacturers will tell you to put the speed bar on or press the front risers. Okay, I'm going to do a beeline again. We'll hopefully try and nurse it in so that it doesn't get messy, because that's the thing about high aspect ratio wings. They can get quite messy. Make sure you grab the bee risers, because you don't want to grab the wrong ones. So here we go. We'll put it in smooth first, let it stabilize, and then increase it. Don't put it on hard, because then it will drop back. So we go in smooth. Okay, that's it. So that's smooth, and now we'll apply more, you see, and then it gets better. So the crease is on. I'm looking at the cameraman. Okay, slight curve on the left. I can ease off on that a bit. It's going to snake a little bit. I'm dropping. That's good. Very smooth. Got to pass the cameraman now because he's right there, and I'll recover just here. So let up, let it dive, and recover. So that's a beeline, and that's quite stable. I could apply more if I needed to, but with high aspect ratio wings, you've got to be careful of it snaking. So you've got to keep an eye on it. And obviously, only pull more when it's safe to do so. Just keep increasing it. But the skill is, don't go really hard into a beeline because it does a sort of horseshoe and it gets messy. If the tips go forwards on a beeline, then when you release, they'll stay forwards, almost like a cravat. So you've got to be careful of that. So if it starts to go forwards, then ease up. If it hasn't inflated, then fully let go. And then once, let it fly so that it gains its laminar flow over the wing, and then pump out the deflation one at a time. Don't pump it out at the same time because you can risk it stalling.
There are better ways to get down, like a spiral dive, but beelines do have their place, in that if you were starting to black out, then you just pull out of the spiral and enter a beeline. So it is worth getting used to and practicing.
But remember, beelines does put a lot of load on your wing, so it's not very good for it. It's not my favourite.
With the rigging of modern and high aspect ratio wings, it often means that the beelines can be messy and sometimes unsafe, so please make sure you check with your user's manual before doing one. Okay, this is card number 2, flight number 7.
And we're doing asymmetric tuck straight and 360 asymmetrics. Okay, so deflation now. So just go round, just gentle, lean on the brakes, control it back out and fly away.
Asymmetric tucks are the most common deflations you're going to get, so they're nothing to worry about, as long as you're quick to respond and you don't overreact to them.
So now I'm going to demonstrate how safe a glider can be, even with sort of 40–50% of the wing gone. So I'm going to deflate it and hold it and keep flying straight, just with weight shift, no brakes. See, my brakes in the keepers. So big deflation, weight shift away, a little bit of brake to start. Okay, now this is just weight shift, okay? So I've got, well, 45% of the wing gone and a little bit of weight shift, not much. See, no brake at all. I've got my left bum cheek is down and it's flying straight, nothing to worry about. Okay, so let go and a quick pump, firm pump, and it's out. Quite often, if you get a big deflation and you're quick to weight shift away and a little bit of opposite brake, then there's no problem at all. Even another one is if I were to do a big deflation and let it go. Can you imagine having a big deflation and it going around 360 and not coming out? So here we go, big deflation, holding it on. Okay, I'm leaning in, round I go, 360, and let go of it. And the energy pops me right out. Climb out, break the dive gently, and out it comes. So you can see with a nice sort of 1–2 glider, it should really recover and stay positive after a 360 deflation and holding it on. Now let's do asymmetrics with speed bar and asymmetrics dynamic. See if we can get the glider to be a bit more violent, so that we have to be a bit more sensitive and skilled in recovery. Let's do a speed bar asymmetric collapse. So we put the speed on, first stage, and then we go to second stage, nice and progressive. Okay, good. So we balance it out at full speed. You can hear the wind noise obviously going up. You can see my pulley blocks coming down. So we're now traveling at full speed. So what I'm going to do is asymmetric tuck one side. Remember, as soon as the tuck comes on, I want to off the speed system. So ready? But big deflation, off the speed system. Gently pull on my left brake, roll back round to my left, settle it down on a good course, and then pump out whatever's left, okay? Don't make the mistake of pumping too hard and too violently whilst it's turning. Get a nice smooth recovery first. Right, so let's take that a stage further. Let's say we're flying in a thermal, we've been spat out, big dive, we haven't broken the dive properly, and we have a big collapse. Now to create that, again, we're going to do a dynamic one. So we're going to brake, let go, and then as it dives, deflate. Let's see what happens there. So we're going to brake, good, let go, and pull on the dive. Oh, big deflation. Round it goes. Let it go 360, pull it out gently, and it's out already before the 360 is finished, and we're stopped. So that's quite nice. It's nothing to panic about. Big deflation, don't worry. Use it, enjoy it. We're just cruising out now. I'm going to do a flight on the Mantra M3. So I'm going to do an asymmetric collapse. This is obviously going to be faster because it's a sportier wing, but there's more energy. But the energy is in the turn, and that's positive because it'll help us pull it out as well. So here we go. I'm grabbing half of it, coast is clear. Deflate, goes round, 90. I just monitor the brake, let it continue round, and pull out at about 180 degrees, just smooth and steady. Because that's what you do with a high performance wing. You keep it smooth. You don't do any stabbing hard turns because they're quite nasty. It's like driving a sports car. You've got to be smooth with your steering wheel. Right, I'm just going to do an asymmetric tuck again, just to demonstrate the turn and the amount of outside brake needed to control it. So when you have a deflation and it takes you slightly by surprise, roll yourself round, get it on an even bank, settle it down, and then pump it out. If it's all cool, you can pump it out during the rotation, but only once you've got everything in control. Don't be in a flap and pump, pump, pump furiously, because that's not good. So here, here's a small deflation. So in it goes, go round. We've got a little bit of pressure on the outside, and as I turn round, the pressure inflates the inside, inflates the deflated side. Nothing to worry about. You don't have to slam it into an opposite brake. You don't have to do anything like that. Just keep it cool. Once you've got the pressure and you're in a turn, everything's great. And you just do a gentle pump, okay? Not too much, not too little. So I'll demonstrate again. Deflate. Okay, I'm going round. I'm now balanced in my turn here. And then as I'm turning, gentle pump, and it all comes out. So that's the key. It's not frantic, it's whatever's needed. I think people worry, you know, because they get shocked by big asymmetric collapses, they panic and overreact. That's the thing, don't overreact. If in doubt, put your hands up and it gets to a balanced flight or gets to something that you can recognize and recover from it. But there's no need to frantically pump or anything like that. It's just smooth, you roll onto a safe course and then you correct the problem. If you've got lots of space or you're in a thermal and you have a collapse, let's say on the outside, then just keep the turn on and just pump it out and keep flying. The key is prioritization. You've got to prioritize what is more important, whether it's getting the deflation out or getting your course right, then getting the deflation out. You've just got to be aware, and whatever happens, you always look at the ground. So if you have a big problem, collapse in a turn or a cravat or whatever, you always look at your problem, look at your ground, look at your options. That's the key. Don't be fixated on this little thing above you. So now I'm going to do an asymmetric tuck and I'm going to keep this glider flying straight. Okay, so I'm going to deflate it. Boom, here it goes, 50% sort of, 45. Little bit of opposite weight shift. Not much opposite brake you can see, and the glider flies straight. I sometimes do this if I have to land on a windy hill or a hillside or a takeoff, because if you come down like that, when you touch down, you can use the deflated side to touch you into the takeoff. Anyway, I think I'm there now. So straight, firm pump, and out it comes. Okay, now remember with the beginner glider, we broke the glider a little bit, let it dive, and then did an asymmetric collapse. Well, you know, if you were an experienced pilot flying this, you wouldn't let it dive and collapse, you'd be on the brakes. so it's not quite real, but it does highlight how a big deflation can still be controlled. So I'm going to do it. I'm just going to go a little bit to the right of the cameraman because I don't want to fly into them. It's not very sociable. Okay, so here I go. I'm just going to gently brake and then put an asymmetric tuck on the dive. So it's just gently diving now. So deflate, round I go. And I'm going to let it go round. I've got a little bit of brake on, and round I go. And I'm just going to gently ease on the outside brake and on the weight shift, and it settles down. Okay, so what I'm going to do is speed bar asymmetric collapse. Again, this is obviously more power, more energy, but I'm just going to gently bleed that energy out. So deflate, off the speed system, gently pull on the left brake, roll it out, and it settles down, even though the deflation can be quite big. But it's just not overreacting. That's the real key, and feeling that pressure is beautiful. And if you don't feel the pressure, keep your hands up till it starts to dive and then feel the pressure again. That's what it's all about. Don't ever worry about deflations, they're not a problem. They are when you overreact, slam on the opposite brake and spin. They're not if you don't. It's the right amount of pressure at the right time. So don't overreact. The symmetric deflation is quite benign with this glider. It's very safe, 1, 2. It's going to collapse, it's going to swing back marginally, and it's going to swing forwards, reinflate and fly away, no more than 45 degrees to the horizon. But what other scenarios are we going to get where we're going to have a bigger deflation possibly? Okay, not just from normal stable flight. So those two most common are a speed bar, when you're on speed bar and you have a massive deflation, and also if you're spat out of the thermal and the glider dives forwards, that's another sort of deflation you might get. So let's do the first one. Let's do a speed bar. So I'm putting on my speed bar now. Okay, first the first stirrup. You can probably see the pulleys going down, and then I'm going on to the second one. So now I'm on the full speed, and you'll be able to see the wind noise is going to get more. All right, and now I'll have a symmetric tuck and we'll see what the glider does, okay? So reach up, and as soon as you have a deflation on a speed bar, you get off the speed bar quick, get back to trimmed flight, okay? Now hit a bit of turbulence, have a deflation. Stop. There we go, falls behind, let it fly forward, slight horseshoe, slight turn, but it's always forwards, it's always diving gently, so it's fine. Now, quite positive, although it looks quite scary, big deflation, the minute it goes from behind to in front, you know it's okay. So tiny application on the brakes and just monitor that progression of recovery and you're fine. Don't panic, that's the key. Don't suddenly go oh, like that, because it'll make it really violent and go into a big cascade of problems. So just let the glider come over your head, let it dive, and just check that dive. If it's going into a turn, it doesn't matter, it's banking. So then you just monitor that bank, that roll, and wait, wing over and brake back onto your safe course. So I'd like to show you just about the pitch of a wing and how good a symmetric tuck is, because people have this sort of horrible thing, oh, symmetric tucks. They're good, they're actually a safety valve, because your glider, if it didn't symmetric tuck when it came down to a right angle, then it would be dangerous. It gains energy and you can fall into the sail. What you want to do is, if you don't break the dive obviously, is the glider dives and it symmetrically tucks and you fall past it, it reinflates and you fly away. Okay, let's do another one now, as if the glider's been spat forward. So to create that, to cheat that if you like, we're going to do brakes. So we're going to brake, dive, and then deflate it on the dive. So here we go. So we brake, let go, as it dives, deflate it. Buff. So that's happens, the deflation on the dive, and that's quite stable because it happens on the dive. You've got that pendulum to recover you as well. So now we're going to do a symmetric tuck. Now this glider, higher aspect ratio, bigger deflation, bigger fallback, and the hovering before it dives is quite acute, especially if the ears stay in. Okay, so we'll see if we can demonstrate that. It'll horseshoe and it'll be quite slow, but you've got to just watch the hands, you've got to brake, just monitor that dive forwards. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to go forwards, I'm going to grab symmetric tuck. Oops, it's quite physical, there's a lot of load on this. Okay, good. Just gently brake it. So now it's deep stalling slightly. I let it dive forwards and I let it fly. Okay, so I'll do another one because that sort of hovered because the horseshoe is so big. Okay, here we go, ready? And so hands up, it's dropping, slightly opening now, hovering, now it's diving, let it dive, let it recover. See, the ears are in, but pop them out one at a time. Don't pop them out together, just one and then the other. Don't be in a rush. And you want that lovely flow of wind in your face. If it's quiet, then you know it's not great, okay? So keep your hands up when it goes quiet.
So in this example of a symmetric tuck, you can see the deflation coming in, glider dropping back slowly, starting to inflate from the center, but as it dives, with big ears, it starts to drop back into deep stall. You can see this by the reflex coming in the wing there. Now if you just keep your hands up, let it dive forwards, get a reassuring dive, and gently brake that surge, and it flies away nicely. Contrary to what we say with safer end gliders, when you're flying high performance wings and you have a massive symmetric tuck, it's very important to quickly jab on the brakes to stop that symmetric tuck getting any worse. The minute it starts to recover and dive, then your hands should be up again, letting it dive and monitoring the recovery. But there is always that pulse reaction of a quick jab of the brakes, and that should be instinctive of a pilot flying that standard glider.
So we'll do it again, another demonstration. So on goes the speed, so we want to go really fast. So here we go, full speed, symmetric tuck, much more violent, off the speed system. The glider horseshoe swings back, flies forwards and recovers straight away. So you can see the difference is quite a lot. Okay, so that was good. That was a nice one. And it's still stable, but it's a lot more violent, but the recovery is still there too. Okay, let's do another one now. Let's do a dynamic one. So I'm going to just brake a little bit. Good. Let it dive and then pull a symmetric tuck. So there it is, it's in. Gently brake the dive that comes. Just weight shift to my right a little bit and then pump the brakes out. Tips come out, no problems at all. And I missed the cameraman, which is an advantage. There he is. I'm going to do a stall, and quite often people are very anxious about stalls. I know that on the SIV courses you run, the quietest day on launch is stall day because they're apprehensive. And you know, it's fair enough, you can be nervous, it's quite a scary thing to do. But stalls are one of those things that once you've done it and you realise how smooth and safe it is, then your confidence soars. It enables you to be able to fly confidently, knowing that if you got into trouble and you couldn't course correct or deal with it, then you can stall it out. Because if you can't stall it out, and you've got a cravat, the only choice you've got is to throw your reserve, and then you're out of the game for the rest of the flight. So it's quite good to learn to stall, but don't feel under pressure.
Obviously, stall is not the only recovery technique from a cravat. You can see all the recovery techniques in the cravat section in Disk 2.
Another feeling you should learn is searching for the point of stall. And so I'm going to start to create it, and you'll hear it go quieter and quieter, and the glider will start to drop back. It's a feeling of being pulled back off your chair. And as soon as it starts, you obviously do the natural thing, let go and break the dive. So watch this, I'm going to slowly apply, just notice my hands, okay? And it'll go slower and slower and slower, nice and slow so you know it's coming. Okay, go slower, you see how silent it is now. Okay, and as soon as it starts to go, there you go, it starts to go, ease off, let it dive and recover. That's the finding the stall, but the point at which the glider stalls. It's good to know it because you can use it to your advantage in thermals and stuff like that. So it's nice to know. Okay, let's have some fun. Let's do a full stall. Now, as I drop into the full stall, all I'm doing is going into the stall point and then pushing my arms down. There's a lot of thrashing around, but all we do is we hold it in, and once it's in and we've fallen back, we gently ease up and recover. So I'll slow it down. Okay, good. And now I'll lock my arms on now, and I'll hold it. I'm underneath now. Okay, and I'll smoothly release now, and then let it dive and recover. So that's a sort of full stall. You're locking your arms down, and you know, the glider's falling backwards, it's going into a full stall. We hold it stable, stabilize underneath the wing, and then smoothly recover. You perhaps saw my brakes coming up nice and smoothly. I mean, there is a bit of jerking, I'm not going to lie, but you try and keep it as smooth as possible. So here goes the full stall, okay? So I'll just stall it now. Okay, it goes back, and I go backwards, and then I'll slowly release. Okay, it goes 360, but you've got to let it go round. It's fine because you've got the pressure on, so it can turn. It doesn't matter. In fact, it's nicer on the recovery when it does, because you're actually recovering in a banking turn, nice and positive. Okay, but you can see once it's in a full stall, it's a bit messy, isn't it? It's a bit messy, it thrashes around, it's not very nice. But what if you had a cravat, you want to just quickly stall it, quickly recover it. So this is what I'm going to show you now, quick stall and a quick recovery. So bury the brakes and wait, here we go, down, and it's above me. Okay, now slowly release, and everything's off. So that way, it's not horseshoeing, it's not going all over the place crazy, and it just goes back, clear the cravat, ease off the brakes, keep the pressure on because it's a big snapping dive, and then release. If you start bending your arms when it starts to dive, sometimes it snatches out of your hand, and that's quite nervy. It's not very nice. So a stall, fast release is the thing that you should learn to achieve. That's the one you really want to do, because that's the good one and it's stable. But again, remember, let it dive but resist that pressure. Smooth, strong hand movements. If you do it too slowly and you go too wooden, and it's trying to dive, it's trying to go forwards, but you're not letting it, then what happens is it stalls again, and it's quite nasty. So you've got to let it dive, just providing friction, resistance, and then you've got it nailed. If you want to do acro, or you're going to get into big maneuvers or cravats, stalling is a very good way of recovering from any problem. But it's a very common thing when you stall or something, your legs go flying in the air, and that's when the twists start to happen. So always make sure if you're going to stall or do any maneuvers, you keep your legs tucked under your body and you're a tight little unit packed in the harness, and you're traveling between the mailons with the wing, and that will keep you a lot safer. Imagine the worst case scenario, you're in a spin, you don't know what's going on, and it's all over the place. Then you can stall out of it. You stall out of it, it stops the spin before it twists or rises or anything, and then you recover smoothly from a stall. So I'll give you that demo, and you can see how good the stall is. It's not the boogeyman, it's nice. So here we go, we've got a spin coming. Off we go, and we're spinning. Oh my God, it's chaos. And so I stall it, hold it on, good, I'm in a stable stall, and then I ease it off gently, and it flies away. So I'm stalling out of the problem, and it's lovely. We've seen how stable and relatively easy the 1-2, the safer end gliders are at stalling, quite smooth recovery. Now this is a sports glider, this will be a bit racy, but with high performance wings, finding that stall point is good because it helps you turn faster. So as you just start to stall or just start to spin, then you can ease off, dive, and then bank into a turn harder. So that's a little trick. So watch, when I search for the stall point here, you'll see my hands will be higher when it starts. So I'll start to slow down. So I'm slowing down, it's going quiet, quiet, nice and slow, and there it starts to go and dive forwards and it's out. But you can see how much less brake is used. That's because it's sportier, less movement going on. But again, remember that a pilot that's flying a glider like this should already know how to stall. So they should be familiar with the pressures, and you shouldn't have to lock your arms fully down to stall it. So all you want to achieve is the falling back, the flying back to release from a cravat or problem, and then easing it up and resisting that fast pressure to dive. Now I'm going to enter a stall and then pull it out. As soon as it starts dropping back, I'm going to pull it out. So we go into the stall like this, it drops back like that. I've got pressure now, I ease up now and gently let it dive forwards, and it's out. You see, you're just monitoring that dive forwards. So another demonstration of a good stall. Okay, so here we go, this is a nice smooth stall. So I'm going to go back, it stalls, I ease off slightly and let it dive, good, and it's out, beautifully recovered, if I say so myself. And as I'm easing it out, the pressure is being rammed into the wing and it's pushing the air into the tips, so it's coming out as I'm diving forward, which is wonderful. That's exactly what you want to do. That was a good one.
People often think that a stall is a descent technique, but a spiral is much faster and safer as it keeps you inflated, positively loaded, and has a much higher descent rate without the risk of cravating or twisting. So don't do a stall to get down. And when you are stalling, be careful that your hand doesn't rub against the reserve and pull it out accidentally.
You've got to remember that you've got to be smooth but not rigid, otherwise you can re-stall it or start to spin it. If it ever starts to go wrong, stall it again. Get your control, get your composure, and do it again. Don't be in a flap to try and correct the problem. Stall it, calm down, now recover again. That's the best way of doing it. Because we all make mistakes, we all hover and start to helicopter and all this. If there's any doubt, put your hands down or put your hands up. Now we're going to search for the spin point, the point at which the glider leaves balanced flight and rotates on its yaw axis. The amp max spin is where you pull one brake and it tries to turn, it can't keep up with you after 90 degrees and it enters a spin, rotating on its yaw axis, but with rollout. The second is a flat spin, where you're flying slowly, then you apply one brake and it turns flat. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate the flat spin first. So imagine you're in a very weak thermal, you're slowing down, oh that's good, vary the brake and there it goes light, let it dive and recover. Okay. And you always know it because your arm, see my arm sort of fell into it, and that's the spin point, okay? It just goes light. But the secret really, as soon as you feel anything going wrong, you put your hands up, then the glider dives, then you recover that dive and you monitor that dive. That's always the secret. So this is the other spin, the sort of amp max style spin. Let's say you suddenly have to put a turn in because you've seen someone you have to avoid. So you bang on the brake and it starts to turn and then spins on the turn. So we'll do that one. So here we go. Go around, oh up, there you go, 180 it's spun. You let go, you let it dive and you recover. And I just do a 360 to bleed out all the energy and I enjoy it really. It's quite nice. Providing you recognize the point of which the glider spins, the point where your hand goes down through it, the point where the glider starts to rotate, it's a strange feeling that you don't normally feel, because normally when you turn, the load goes in your tummy and you bend around with the turn. But when it starts to spin, you're twisting, but there's no feeling there, and therefore alarm bells should ring. So if you feel light brake and it rotating, then you know it's starting to spin. So hands up, brake the dive, and you're fine. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate the spin, one with no weight shift, one with weight shift. So here's no weight shift, okay? So look, no weight shift, non-pilot, go around I go, it spins 90, okay? So I let go, I pull back onto my course, great, okay? So therefore it spun at 90 degrees, full brake, spins at 90, no weight shift. Now watch this, full weight shift and then brake, it's 90, 180, now it spins. So just past 180, it spins. That's all because I weight shifted, I loaded that side, and therefore it didn't spin. Use that weight shift into turns. If you need it, it's there to use. If you don't need it, don't use it. Right, so now imagine if you're in a full spin and you've gone all the way around. The secret is don't panic. Don't release it when it's behind you. Release it when it's in front of you. So we'll do another one just to demonstrate. When the leading edge is facing the ground, we'll let go of it. And round I go. So it's gone round, it's facing the ground now. I let go, I pull to the outside brake a little bit just to slow the dive down, and it recovers. And that's the important thing. If the leading edge is facing the ground, it can't go any further in the dive. It's already facing the ground. So when you let go, all it can do is swing out. If you release it when it's behind you, then you've got your pendulum swinging down and the glider's dive, which amplifies the problem. Okay, so if you face the ground, let everything up. If you're facing the sky, keep it on. Now we're going to search for the spin on the more high-end performance wing. And with performance wings, because they don't turn as fast and efficient as quickly as low-end, low aspect ratio wings, it's quite important to know where the spin point is, because sometimes you use it to your advantage. So normal search for flat spin, so as if you've got a bit of brake on your thermaling. So we slow it down a touch, hard on one side now, it's spinning there. So we let off, we gently brake the surge, and we pull out. Very smooth, very easy. Either way, it's sort of a high aspect ratio sweeps back a lot more and then spins. Okay, so it gives you plenty of notice. If you're looking at it, you'll see it quickly, but if you're feeling it, it'll be a bit later. Now let's do a sort of a collision avoidance one, the amp max one. So full on one brake with no weight shift, as if we're sort of avoiding someone. So on it goes, spins there, break the dive and recover. It's good to know these because you need to know the sort of limits of the wing. You need to know where you can get away with pulling and where you can't. And quite often, you know, in a thermal, imagine a thermal's ripping up the side of you and it's pushing up that wing and you want to face it and get into it. So what you need to do is bury this brake and it just starts to spin, and just at that point you ease off, you penetrate the thermal, you puncture the lift in a dive which is safe, and then you weight shift into the turn and core. So you're using a spin point to your advantage. So it's good on high aspect ratio wings, it's good to learn that. I'm going to show you now the difference the weight shift makes in the turn and the spin with a sportier glider. Okay, ready? So bury the brake. There it goes spinning. So break the dive and pull round. I'll do the same again, but this time I'll throw my weight in and then I'll spin it. So big weight shift, big brake. Ready? Big weight shift, big brake. And there it goes. It's just starting to spin there. Hardly does it because it wants to roll into the dive and it wants to fly. Imagine if it was all a bit of a panic and you couldn't see the ground, you didn't know where the ground was, you didn't know what to do. In that case, you either put your hands up, if you could see the ground, put your hands up, or if you're not sure, you put your hands down and you fully stall it. So we'll fly along. Ready? Bury the brake. Okay, round I go. Okay, it's going round. Not nice, so I stall it. I go back, now it's forward, so I ease off gently and let it dive, okay? And that allows the glider to stall, to fall back, to clear the problem, but it also allows you, doesn't do the full horseshoe back and risk getting a cravat.
A pilot capable of flying this glider shouldn't have to stall out of the spin. He should be able to recognise it, release it, let it dive and control it back to normal flight. The best way to practice spiral dives is starting with doing tight 360s and get used to the G-forces involved.
Okay, so I'm going to show you how to enter a spiral dive and how to exit it. I'm not going to hold it in for too long because this camera that you're seeing me from doesn't like high Gs. So I'm just going to show you the entry. Now the entry, very important. You must get it in quite quickly. You don't want to spin it, but you need to get it in because imagine you're being sucked up or you need to get down. So the secret is pull the brake on hard, let it go into a 90-degree dive, then squeeze on a bit more and then it locks in quickly. So I'll show you now. So I'll brake and it drops in 90 and then I pull on more. Okay, and then it'll drop in and it'll go round. Now it's in, I ease off, easing off the brakes all the time and recover. Let it dive and brake. See how much brake I've got on? Not loads, I mean it looks like loads to you, but it's only enough to feel the pressure, okay? And bear in mind that safer gliders have more brake range. So that's where the pressure was. That's where I could feel it. And it's very simple, it's as easy as that. Okay, so I'm going to give you that demonstration again. So it's a quick turn, lean in, dive, and then apply more. So watch my hands, watch my weight shift. Here we go. It's a quick turn, lean in, and off we go. In it goes. Round I go. I'm locking in now, and then I'll just pull out. There we go. And bleed out that energy. Don't let off and pull out straight away. Just bleed it out. So you do another 360 and climb out. If you try too hard to let off too quick, it causes problems and it dives and collapses and it looks a right mess.
It's also important to weight shift into the turn to prevent spinning and help you lock in that bit quicker. But be aware, it can also keep you in. So sometimes it's best to enter a spiral in neutral weight shift. If you do use neutral weight shift, be careful of it spinning.
So I'm going to demonstrate just a spiral entry, just with a faster wing, more sport wing, and using plenty of weight shift. Remember, this will roll in, so we roll in, pull on a 90-degree turn, let it drop a bit, and then squeeze on more, and nurse it straight into the spiral within the first 360. That's our aim. So we roll in, and here it goes, drops a bit, and then we squeeze on a bit more. And then round it goes, it's in, and then we just gently pull out, bleeding out the energy, and settling it down. Be careful when you do spirals, because if you lock them in too hard, they can stay in. And in order to get out if they stay in, what you do is you pull on the outside brake gently. It's quite hard pressure, but you start pulling and it'll pull straight out. If that doesn't happen, you squeeze on both brakes and slow it down a little and then squeeze on the outside brake. Okay, I'm going to do another entry so you can see it a bit more.
Once you've mastered 360s and the Gs, then practice dropping it in, squeezing on the brake and entering the spiral as fast as you can without spinning it.
You keep the recovery so smooth that you keep the wing inflated. Always aim to keep the wing inflated. If it's not inflated, there's a reason. You're not pulling off smoothly, you're not monitoring the pressure on the outside. So, good tip. Keep it inflated.
Spiral dive is the best descent technique as it gets you down fast and keeps your wing inflated, but be careful of your limits. Before entering a spiral, a good idea is to tense all your body muscles to keep the blood from draining from your brain. If you are locked in a spiral, don't look around with your head, but use your eyes, else you can pull muscles in your neck and it really hurts. But if you do get tunnel vision or start seeing stars or spots, then you've got to pull out of any spiral dive or 360 straight away because you're just about to black out. My friend Alan Zoller from Air Turquoise in Switzerland says he's got a lovely glider that he's personally tweaked, and it does actually lock into a spiral dive. So in Disc 2, we go to Air Turquoise in Villeneuve, and I'll talk you through the best ways of getting out of a locked-in spiral dive.
So, we're going to do some wing overs now. It's very important to learn them, not just for acro, but just for understanding roll control. And that's a really good window into someone's skill. Wing overs and turn reversals are the way I can see if a pilot's got it. You need to have good balance. Roll stability, bank stability, weight shift and brake all harmonise perfectly. So, wing over is important, weight shift, brake, but the most important is the outer brake and the timing. Don't let the deflation collapse. So here we go, weight shift right, and weight shift and brake left with a bit of right on. Now we've got the dive energy, so now we can do more. Lots of outside brake, and more. Lots of outside brake, and more. Lots of outside brake, and more. Lots of outside brake. What fun this is. One more. Woo! And we'll just do a 360 to bleed it out. You see, watch. Here we go. Nice smooth 360. So it's all about timing. Use that dive, that speed to get you round. And always keep the pressure on the outside brake. That's the important one, the outside brake. So when you're turning, brake on the outside, otherwise you have a deflation. If you have a deflation, stop wing overs. Don't try and do another one, because it makes the wing overs bad and you'll have a deflation on the other side, both sides, nasty. So if ever you have a deflation, stop, start again, and get it right. More outside brake, more dive.
Weight shift now. Weight shift now. Shift now.
Right, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you some wing overs, and I'm going to show you some bad ones, hopefully. It's quite, not that I'm good at them, but it's quite hard to do them badly when you instinctively don't want to. So here's a good one. Now, you can see that I'm using weight shift, brake, dive, outer brake, roll, a nice system pattern. Now let's see what I do if I don't do that properly. Let's do wing overs with no weight shift, okay? So here's a no weight shifting wing over. So it starts to deflate on the inside, and see, I can't. Okay. So I'm not going to touch the outside brake now. There you go. The tip deflates. I'm not going to touch the outside again. The tip deflates. So you've got to touch the outside brake. It's got to have that pressure on. That's the important thing.
Have a look at the amount of outside brake I have on at the moment I'm over the wing, just to keep it inflated and to catch up with it, releasing it as I dive to build up that energy again and enter the next turn.
You've got to keep that pressure on. People don't. It's the hardest thing to teach is wing overs, because they're getting into the rhythm and they so are focusing on the turning in that they forget to keep the pressure on the outside. If you don't feel pressure, pull more, whatever it takes to stop it deflating. It's so hard to get it wrong. Problem with being a genius. No, it's not. It's not at all. That's rubbish. I can get it wrong. I do get it wrong. But if I get it wrong, I keep calm and I carry on. So I'm going to do some wing overs now with this faster glider. So we've got more power, more energy, and you'll see you've got a lot more outer brake to come on. The game is keeping it balanced and stable with no deflations. Okay, so I start my turn. I'm going to do a left. Okay, I'm going to weight shift right, turn right. Okay, good. Weight shift left, turn left. Lots of brake on the outside. Weight shift right, turn right. Lots of brake on the outside, turn left. Lots of brake on the outside. Turn right. Lots of brake on the outside. Turn left. Lots of brake on the outside. And turn right. And when you want to stop, you can often, if it's going too much, just do a 360 and bleed it out. Looks like you're in cool control. And then just gently bleed the energy out, level out, and fly away. And that's nice because you're keeping it balanced, you're keeping it smooth, you're keeping it fluid.
So to summarise, to do a perfect wing over, you must understand and master the three basic principles, which are weight shifting into the turn, braking into the turn, and braking on the outside to stop the deflation coming in. So here we have the dive coming in, the weight shift coming in, and as you go over and the brake is on, you can see the upper brake coming on now, then coming off, letting the glider dive, going into the next turn and carrying on. So if you have a problem learning this, it's best to start with weight shift only, get the rhythm, then add the brake input, and then when they get big, add the outside brake input to stop the deflation, and then all three in the perfect order gives you the perfect mastered wing over. When you become proficient at wing overs and you have a fast glider, then to get them really big, you push the brakes through just before the bottom of the dive, and that sends you right over the glider, positive without deflations, and builds speed up for the next turn.
Stop there, because I'm going to head to the beach. So let it climb out, look at the nice piece. Then brake, then fly away. Wonderful. What a job! Wing over, wing over, wing over. Paragliding is absolutely stunning, absolutely brilliant sport, and you've got to make the most out of it, respect it, and use it for what it's good for. Okay, this is an amazing piece of kit. All paragliders are fantastic, and all designers want you to have a good time and a safe time. So, maximizing the understanding of the glider and your ability to control it is very, very important. So, the things you can do yourself, providing you've got good altitude, it's familiar, nice smooth air, and you're comfortable, you can gently practice maneuvers. Not extreme, but maneuvers that get you a better understanding of your wing.
So many pilots fly for hundreds of hours without really understanding the subtlety of glider control. And until you do, you won't be able to maximise the performance of your wing. There's no point in having a super glider unless you can fly it. So invest in yourself before you invest in your kit, and understand the balance and play with your glider, gently pushing the boundaries when it feels right and it's safe to do so.
So just doing simple turns and learning about where it can go and where it can't. The spin point, the dive point, etc. So start with simple pitch exercises. Slow it down, let it dive. As it dives, slow it down, let it dive. Just gentle porpoising, building up your tolerance to the amount of brake you can pull and the amount of dive your wing can do and remain safe. So that's your sort of pitch. Getting used to that and being comfortable with it is quite important. And you can see you can pull on quite a bit of brake and still be okay. And that's another thing people aren't fully aware of.
Learn to get comfortable with the dive of a glider, because providing you've got a little bit of brake and a bit of pressure, it's good and it's safe because you have speed and you have control. The glider that shoots without you needs braking fast.
So we've got pitch and you're comfortable with that. Let's now do roll. So I want to turn, and I turn 90 degrees and I let off. I turn 90 degrees this way and I let off. The speed always builds up with every dive. Turning is very important because you've got to turn tight on cores to get up. You might have to turn tight in order to get into a very small landing field. So you've got to be comfortable with turning. You can't be wooden. You've got to be smooth and fluid. Taking advantage of the dive of the glider. The other great one is a turn reversal. Just getting used to 360 in one way, then the other. The transition, the twist, and the dive and the rotation. So we'll do a turn reversal. So we're going to go 360 one way. So round we go. Generally build up the speed as the speed increases. We've reached our 360, we're facing the sun, we let it dive, we weight shift early, and we squeeze on the brake. Around it goes, nice and balanced, 45 degrees, and we ease it out now at our 0 point, and it stops. The glider doesn't collapse, doesn't leave balanced flight, and all is great. So you're learning how far can you push it in a 360, which is important for coring and stuff, but also in a switch. Imagine the core comes at you from one side and you've got a switch. That's what it's good for as well. Practicing that in good smooth air gives you a really good understanding. But doing it within a sort of 20-second time frame proves to you that you have the ability to get the glider around and make the most out of it. And it's all that enjoyment and rolling around makes me really comfortable when I really need it. Like to tuck in tight to a hillside to get up, or to use a core, or to just land properly. And not being fearful of landing is important, because you know, if you're flying along and you think, oh God, I can't land there, you'll really not enjoy the flying. So you've got to practice landing, flying, everything. And being comfortable with your wing in turning is the key to that. I know I can get in, I know I can turn, because I've practiced all these gentle turns, gentle wing overs, not building it up, not going mad, not having deflations, nothing. Just gently rolling around, no pressure, enjoying the glider.
Another important part of pilotage is also finding the spin and stall points, which are covered in the spin and stall sections.
But before you do any sort of maneuvers, it's important that you make sure you're safe, your environment's safe, and you don't push it. If you think it's going to be any strong maneuvers, you've got to do that over the water, and with proper instruction, with life jackets and everything. When the weather turns nasty and you've come on your paradise week, don't just sit in the hotel sulking. Get on the beach, get on the landing field, do some ground handling and have fun, because perfect practice makes perfect piloting. Woohoo! This is fun! I'm off! I'm off! I'm going to Rhodos!
We were too busy having fun doing the ground handling, but if you want to get some really good tips, watch Russell Hogden's ground handling DVD.
Come on, let's do it again. Good. Come on, let's go again. I'm so excited. Oh, come with me, come with me. So much to do, such little time. Çabuk, çabuk. Okay, here we go. Legs free. Ooh. House. Come with me, Martin. Stay close. Come with me. We're going on together. Oh, Father. Oh, try. We stop. Release and break the dive. Beautiful. That is excellent.
The reason we do SIV is to really make people more comfortable in the air with their gliders, and also give them confidence in their ability to control the glider. And what that does is, when you're flying in a thermic arena, cross-country flying, then it frees up that element of doubt and fear that you might have in your glider. So stop you looking up at it and panicking and thinking of negative things like the glider collapsing and controlling it. What SIV does is it gives you a better understanding of that, so when the collapse comes in you can control it, and it frees your mind to look at where the lift is, where the other guys are, and you just fly more instinctively and use less fear and brain sugar and stress, and that way, by making you more relaxed, it makes you fly longer. And that's the whole idea of it.
Nice, great. Up the brake, up the brake. Hey, yeah.
To benefit from an SIV course, we normally ask for a minimum of about 10 hours airtime since getting your pilot license. In fact, the less hours you've got, the easier it is and more fun it is to do an SIV course, because the pilots are a blank canvas, hungry to learn, and they respond directly to your commands.
Smoothly recover now. Hands up now, fully.
The more experience you get, the more instinctive it becomes, and the less they listen to the instructor's commands.
Left brake now, just left brake. Just gently, just gently. Gently. Gently, left brake, left brake, left brake, gently, just gently, left brake, left brake, left brake. Left brake, just gently. That's good, you got it now, you got it. Left brake, just gently, that's it, you got it. Now,
So, in all, it's all about your frame of mind, where you are. If you really want to absorb it and enjoy it, then just do one. If you're not sure about it and you're really apprehensive, then it's probably worth not bothering. Even though done well, all SIV courses are designed to build your confidence up.
More brake. Now. Good, hold the position. Squeeze on a little bit more brake. Slow it down. Good. Lovely control. Okay, now ease off. Centre up. Centre up. Ease off the brake. Squeeze on a little bit of left brake. Good.
I've been teaching SIV since 1991, and each student's manoeuvres have been logged and stored in my secret vault. On average, we have 100 students a year, and out of that 100, about 4 throw their reserves because they've needed to, or because they're too low to get to the shore, so they might as well throw it anyway. SIV instructors consider it a failing if they get a student in the water. So it's important that when you're selecting a course, an instructor for you, that you make sure you have good empathy with them and that they understand your requirements.
If you do choose to do an SIV course, make sure it's with equipment, buoyancy aids, over water, and with a good, fast rescue boat.
Instructors and guides like myself have all worked hard and feel very proud to be in the position we are today. And we're very approachable. So don't be afraid to come up to us and ask us any question about paragliding, as long as it keeps you safe and helps you get the most out of this great sport.
Well done, mate.
Acro is a great way of harmonising adrenaline with pure glider control, using the speed and the dive, roll and yaw to your complete advantage. It's a beautiful thing to master, and it looks absolutely stunning. But to get it right and really do it justice, you've got to put in a lot of time to perfect every manoeuvre, stage by stage. Starting with wing overs and stalls so that you know you can recover from them. And then moving on to high dynamic moves like loops and sats, and then going on to dynamic sats, helicos and tumbles. And once you've mastered them, you can start putting them all together in a really nice routine, practicing the timing and control. Then you can go for the holy grail of acro, the infinite tumble. But to get to that stage, to be a decent acro pilot, you've really got to do it justice, and you've got to invest both time and money, because you can't do it under a normal wing. You've got to have a dedicated freestyle or acro wing with the correct harness and 2 reserves. So it's a big investment in both time and money, but it's certainly one that's worth doing if that's what your passion is. In fact, we enjoyed filming and watching Johan, Merjan and Sam doing their acro that we'd love to make another film based purely on acro.
I believe there's nothing better than actual experience, hands-on doing it. Practice, practice, practice. So if the rain stops and the wind stops blowing, then get out there and practice. If it's too windy for flying but you can ground handle, go and ground handle. If it's too light, then practice forward launching in nil winds. But as soon as you can fly, fly, because that's where you're going to get the experience. The more you fly, the more instinctive it becomes, the more natural it feels. And then you can fly longer and further every time.
It's not just about distance and achievements. It's more about having the confidence to relax and soak up and enjoy the environment that paragliding has allowed you to be in.
There are several stages to glider control. First of all, there's breaking the dive. Stop it diving too much, and therefore you won't get deflations, collapses, cravats, twists, anything. So breaking the dive is the prevention rather than the cure, if you like.
In fact, if you can fly it well and keep this beautiful glider above your head, you don't have to watch the rest of this scary movie.
If it does dive and has a big collapse, then keep your course. Doesn't have to always be straight, has to be just safe. It could be a gentle 360 with lots of pressure on, as long as it's safe.
Imagine if you have a deflation whilst flying close to the hill. You can let the deflation actually take you away to safety, flying towards the valley, and then pump it out. So you're prioritising the situation by getting a safe course and then correcting. But prevention is better than the cure. So weight shift away from the hill if you're really close in, and that way if you have a deflation on the hillside, it prevents it from building energy.
Stage 3, if it's really going mad and going round and round and round, then if you've got twists, block the twists and sort them out, or slow it down as much as you can with the outside brake or the risers. If you can't do that, then stall it. Stalling will eradicate everything, will get you to a state where you can recognize it, and then you can release, check the dive and fly away. And if you can't stall it because you're all twisted and it's all going wrong, or you haven't the altitude, which is very important, then you have to throw your reserve. Always, during manoeuvres, look at the glider, the problem, and your altitude. If you haven't the altitude, get the parachute out quick. To get it out, reach down, look, locate, grasp, pull it out the way it came in, and give it a good throw. Once it's out, get the main in. Don't leave them both flying.
Reserve deployment and handling is covered in more detail in Discs 2.
But if it all goes horribly wrong, and you really don't know what's happening,
keep calm, carry on.
That's Chris and Martin. They're off to land now. But remember, the most important thing is to practice. Learn yourself, experience the good and bad, and really learn from it. And turn all the negatives into positives, and really use this great sport to your advantage. Putting in the airtime, practicing, and enjoying it. That's what it's all about. Not staying in rooms or classrooms watching DVDs. I know the weather's probably bad outside, and the instructors put this on for you to learn a few little things. But as soon as that wind drops, as soon as that rain stops, get yourself out there and get practicing. Take care, and hopefully see you on the hill someday.
Well, we've hoped you've enjoyed this film. If you go to securityinflight.com and register your details, we'll keep you informed of the latest glider handling tips and safety notices from around the world. Because together, we can make this sport as safe and enjoyable as possible. Got a starburst right behind you, Martin. It's like the coming of the Lord. Look at those guys. You look, Chris.
I'm going to keep my helmet on. It looks like I got hair.
Come with me.
Please help support this film and future productions by buying the original DVDs from securityinflight.com.